Staying with a toxic, high conflict, narcissistic man for the sake of the children is detrimental to you, first of all, and it's detrimental, very detrimental to the children, because the children are seeing you, your daughter, your son are seeing you, and normalizing what it is to be in the air quote loving relationship. Gina Tremacy here, your favorite psych nurse practitioner, coming at you again with another video highlighting toxic, narcissistic, dusty, chaotic, unsteady, love on one leg type relationship, normalizing seeing red flags, running from red flags, normalizing separation, divorce, when you're staying in a very high conflict, abusive relationship. Not staying for the kid is another thing. For the kid or for the kids is another thing. And how to heal and how to level up after healing, how to manage your mental health after leaving, and how to manage your triggers and live a wholesome life. Today's video is on going back to the toxic ex for the sake of the kids. What are your thoughts? Leave me a comment in the chat box. Leave me a share, like. What are your thoughts on going back to the toxic ex for the sake of the kids? Or staying in the toxic relationship when you know that man is not loyal to you, not consistent with you, not empathetic with you, not helping you, not caring for you. Actually, every sign is telling you that he's or might be cheating on you. At least from my research, staying in that one, it's a really toxic reflection in the subconscious mind of the children, because we can tell children, oh, this is not right, but they are looking at you. The children are looking at you, and being in an abusive relationship just give them the okay to repeat the pattern as they grow, because we do what we see, especially for environment we have been conditioned to think that normalizing abuse, conditioned to think that high conflict, chaotic fighting, using stonewalling, silent treatment, that kind of behavior is okay. There's a research that says the quality of a mother's happiness deeply affects the children and their mental and emotional well-being. Children have lasting trauma they carry through their adulthood for being witnesses for their mother's abuse. Hearing a woman stay with an abusive man and place blame on the woman is disgusting. When the man blames the woman for the demise of the relationship, really that's another level of toxicity. So a lot of times in domestic violence situations, the perpetrator is 90%, if not more, is the man. Okay, so a lot of these men who, some of the presentations will look like they don't like boundaries, they don't respect boundaries, they don't take boundaries, they want to put boundaries on you, they want to track you, they want to check constantly. Even when you go out with your girlfriend, they are calling, video calling you. Their own trust issues, they will project that on you. They will blame shift. They will constantly accuse you of cheating when in actual fact they are the ones doing it. They have no communication skills. They have no conflict resolution skills. They a lot of times have poor money management skills, but yet they want to be the leaders. Air quotes. They lack empathy. They're insecure, and they project their insecurities that they have in the world, wherever they are running their businesses or where their work environment, when they feel like they cannot assert their egos, or their fragile egos is bruised. When they come home, they start to throw a whole bunch of trauma in exerting or feeling that they have some type of control, but it's imagined controlled. Especially when you're raising sons as well, you don't want to have them have the blueprint of normalizing that dad talking down, calling you out of your name. A lot of time abuse is not always physical, you know. I always say this in on my channel. A lot of these men have immaturity, insecurity. They grow up in environments where a toxic abuse is normalized, misogyny is normalized, red pillar mindset is normalized. They live in the manosphere where it's all about the bro code. Like, even sometimes their children become their competitors. So especially if a child, a lot of men will start becoming jealous of their children because they're getting maybe the attention, but you can't help it. Men don't think, okay, I'm going to give my wife a break and that way maybe I can take her out and have more attention. But no, what do? Just leave the children and give you all the attention? Help me and then we'll have more time so I can give you the attention to treat you like a baby, right? A lot of men want to be treated like babies. They want to make a mommy out of you, but meanwhile, they are grown adults. The relationship is not fair and it's not equal partnership. That's all about control and it's all about dominance in many places because a lot of them lack that control on the outside world. The cycle of hurting can continue. Sometimes this man will come back and apologize, get all sweet with you, and you take him back and create this trauma bond codependency dynamic where you feel like you're on a merry-go-round constantly.
So let's talk about how your toxic relationship with your ex is negatively affecting your children. You gotta remember that even though you two don't love each other and can't stand each other or whatever the issue is, your children, but they still love both of you. And they're caught in this entanglement of negativity, negative emotions, anger, jealousy, whatever is going on. So you're asking them to choose. Each time you say something negative, and I did this myself till I realized how it was hurting my kids. But each time you say something negative about your ex to the children, it hurts their heart, and you're impacting their ability to like you and respect you. So please don't do that, okay? Think of it this way. If you have multiple children, and you have 2 children, and somebody said to you, you can only stay with one now. You have to let the other one go. Or somebody started, how would that make you feel? Could you choose? No, you can't, because you love them both. Or if you hear negative things being said about one of your children, it hurts your heart. So this is what your children are dealing with. And it's affecting the relationship with you because you're being toxic or negative about their father.
So when you're co-parenting with a narcissist or toxic person that wants you back, they will try to control your time through the kids. And if you're new here, I have narcissistic personality disorder. So a personal example of like when my wife left last year and I still wanted her back, I would leave her alone when she had, when she had the kids and whatnot, because I knew where she was at. I knew she had the kids and things like that. She doesn't trust a lot of people to watch the kids. So I knew what she was doing. She had the kid. But when I would have my son and whatnot, I would consistently be contacting her, giving her updates and stuff like that, letting her know how our son was doing and whatnot, what he was thinking when he was going to sleep and stuff like that, to try to occupy her time, to have an excuse to reach out to her and things like that. So that is an example of how a narcissist will try to control your time through co-parenting as well. Others will show up late to the drop-off points and things like that, or won't show up at all. And some of them will like literally just tell you they're coming at a certain time and don't come at all. That way they control your time too. So always have a backup plan when you're trying to meet a narcissist and things like that.
Well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And he's like, well, just move up here. Come live up here in Pennsylvania. So you pack up your whole house. Move you and your son to Pennsylvania, right? where you don't have any family or friends, because your son is doing so much better. And he's like being a good dad. And he's being a pretty decent partner. Like, again, I've always hated, I hate men. I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Like, I'm smarter than him. And yet, still, you're like, okay, everything is going good. Our son is happy. That's what matters most. So then, that was in December. So now,
I'm not gonna lie, it was the worst thing ever growing up and realizing that men are losers, bro. And not in the way that, like, they don't have money or, like, cars or houses. It's, like, the way they think, the way they speak to women, the way they treat women, the way they mistreat women, actually. And just, like, their view of the world and their mindset is just, like, so off. Like, I don't know, like, I feel like as a young child, as a young girl, we're raised to think that men are just so strong and the saviors and, like, just supposed to, like, hold us up. But they can't even hold themselves up. Matter of fact, they expect us to do it. No, I'm through. I'm cool on it. Bye.
you're down if almost 12 years ago you had a kid with a guy and you guys got married and it was an awful relationship, and you both had mental health issues, undiagnosed, unmedicated, and you were an alcoholic but you didn't know it at the time. So obviously the relationship was toxic and you divorced. So then you moved back to Tennessee with your son, and your son would visit him a couple times a year, and everything was like pretty decent. He always paid child support on time. You still didn't you didn't like him because you didn't think he was that good of a father. But for the most part, you kind of got along. But really, there was just periods of time where you didn't speak at all because, again, you didn't think he was doing the best he could. Anyway, he winds up getting remarried, has a couple more kids. At the end of last year, his other baby mama leaves him suddenly to you because you're not in their business and you don't know what goes on in their lives. He unblocks you because he had you blocked, and immediately starts telling you all of this information about things that she said about you and whatnot. And you already know he's like kind of a liar, but you're like, you know what? Like, okay, whatever. Like, you didn't really like her anyway because of some shit that transpired that wasn't even important. Anyway, so you kind of believe him, but you kind of don't. And then he decides he wants to come visit your son, and you're like all for it because your son is having like mental health issues because his dad isn't in his life as much as he should be, and he's going to therapy once a week. And so you're like, yeah, of course, like anything I can do to help in that relationship. He comes and visits you and your son in Tennessee, and everything's cool. And then he's there for a couple days and you start feeling really guilty because everything seems normal, and you're like, well, maybe we should try to work this out. Like, even not romantically, like even just as co-parents for our son, like this would be a smart decision. We could, he could stay with us until he found somewhere to live, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you know what? Yeah, like whatever. But eventually, like, one thing leads to another and you guys wind up hooking up. Okay. And so then you're like full back on, but you're hesitant too because you're like, you just got out of a marriage, like you're not even legally divorced yet. But he like reassures you like, oh no, I'm sick. Anyway, reassures you, oh no, it's totally fine. Like, things are over between us, me and her, long before she left, yada, yada, yada. And you're like, okay, whatever. So everything's kind of going cool. And then your house winds up selling in Tennessee. So you're like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm going to do now. And he's like, well, just move up here. Come live up here in Pennsylvania. So you pack up your whole house, move you and your son to Pennsylvania, right? Where you don't have any family or friends, because your son is doing so much better and he's like being a good dad. And he's being a pretty decent partner. Like, again, I've always hated, I hate men. I take everything he says with a grain of salt. Like, I'm smarter than him. And yet still you're like, okay, everything is going good. Our son is happy. That's what matters most. So then, that was in December. So now, it's the beginning of fucking March. And this whole time, he has been in like a little custody, he's going through a divorce. They're doing custody stuff, divorce, whatever. And he mentions a few times that he wants to move to Tennessee. And you're like, what about your other two boys? Like, they live in Pennsylvania. You can't just do that to them. And he's like, oh, yeah, sure. And you tell him, like, I'm not going to be with a man that abandoned his kids. That's dusty, gross behavior. I lived it. I had a dad that was absent. I saw what it did to our son when you weren't there. I won't co-sign that behavior. And he seems all for it, right? Like, he's like, yeah, like, I don't know why she won't let me be around the kids. She's scared of him. And like, he's got some anger issues, like whatever. But like, I don't really think anything of it because like, I've seen it. I've beat his ass before. Okay, I beat his ass the first time we were together over a decade ago. Okay, so it's like, yeah, I've seen how he acts, but it ain't nothing that, can't handle. But then also he starts working on his mental health and he changes his medication and he starts doing what you think is better and everything's going pretty good. You think everything is going pretty good. So Friday night, you and him and your son, y'all go shopping, and me personally spend hundreds of dollars buying all kinds of for his other two kids because he's supposed to be able to visit them supervised. His dad has to be there. The next morning, yesterday morning, okay? And hold on. Okay, so you spend so much money, because, did I mention he also lost his job like a month ago, randomly. But you spend all of that money on these kids that you've never even buy them all kinds of things that you think they'd like to eat. You buy a baby gate, safety shit for the doors. You buy all kinds of little toys. And then the next morning, you go to sleep that night. You think everything's pretty cool. You're a little bit stressed out about the situation because you've never met these kids and, you don't know how everything's going to go. And also, they're two toddlers. You have a 12-year-old. Like, that's taking on a lot of extra responsibility. And they both are on the spectrum. Nervous because you also, want these kids to like you. And then, next thing you know, he has your number blocked and your son's number blocked. And hours have passed. And your son is trying to get a hold of him, and he can't. Turns out that, so he blocked your son, he blocked you. Finally, his dad, who went with him to get the kids, answers and tells your son that he's in the hospital because he had a psychotic break. And you're confused because you're like, how could he have had a psychotic break? Like, everything's going pretty normal in our lives. But then the cops show up at your house and you're like, that's weird. I don't know. And why would the cops show up here? Oh, they're doing a welfare check on your son. You're like, that's confusing. And anyway, so your son talks to them and you're like, meanwhile, we don't know where dad is. What's going on with him? And then his dad, your ex-father-in-law, comes over and just explains to you that everything is probably going to be okay. Don't give up on him. He just had a little bit of a psychotic break. He's in the psych ward. He's on a, 72-hour hold because the stress of life just got to him too much. And you're like, okay, yeah, sure. You know what? Been here before. We can do it again. And, it kind of calms you down. But then the wife, the other baby mama, the one that he's currently in divorce proceedings with, texts you today and says, hey, Tasha, I know that you probably don't want to hear from me or you don't want to talk to me, but I just think you and I need to touch base because I'm hearing one thing and I don't know what you're being told. And I'm confused, right? Because I'm what do you mean? What she's being told? Apparently, what she was being told is that I was controlling his life and he was trying to escape me and that I was psychotic and that I held a gun to his head on Thanksgiving of this past year when we were at my brother's house. I don't even have a handgun to hold to his head. I'm just saying all kinds of stuff about me, which she saw through and immediately was like, not sending my kids with you, calling the cops anyway. So all that happens and there's a whole lot more. And also, you're pregnant. Yeah. Did that happen to anyone else, please? So now you're pregnant with a psychopath's baby for the second time. And now you have to figure out what to do. And now everything that you've been told is a lie, and you're just trying to weed through all of the lies and figure out what the to do.